Hi, I'm Tom Carlisle. You're listening to this because, well, let's just say life didn't turn out quite the way I thought it would. I spent over 25 years married to the woman I thought I'd grow old with, only to find out that trust, well, it's a fragile thing, easily shattered. And when it breaks, it doesn't just hurt you, it takes pieces of your soul with it. Let me start from the beginning. I grew up in Savannah, Georgia, small town, big heart. It's the kind of place where everyone knows everyone's business, and the pace of life slows down, like the river that runs through it. I met my wife Sandra in high school. We were the picture-perfect couple. She was smart, ambitious, had a smile that could light up the whole room. We got married young, maybe too young, but we made it work. Or at least I thought we did. For 25 years, we built a life together. I worked as a contractor, long hours, building homes for families just like ours. We had 3 kids, Rebecca, Jack, and Tyler. Life wasn't easy, but it was ours. Rebecca was my little girl, always the apple of my eye. Jack, he joined the Marines, and Tyler, well, he was already married with a kid of his own. I was proud of them. They were my world. Sandra, she stayed home to raise the kids, make sure everything was running smoothly. And me? I was the guy who worked hard to give them a good life. But I guess I missed some things along the way. You see, Sandra wasn't happy. At first, it was little things. She'd get quiet at dinner, wouldn't laugh at my corny jokes like she used to. I didn't think too much of it. After all, we'd been together for over 2 decades. People change, right? But I never thought she'd change this much. It was about a year ago that I started noticing something was really wrong. Sandra was distant, always lost in her own world, and I had no clue what was going on. I'd ask her, "Hey, what's wrong? Is everything okay?" She'd smile, tell me not to worry, but that smile didn't reach her eyes. And me? Like a fool, I believed her. I thought maybe she was just stressed or dealing with some midlife crisis. Then one night, after Rebecca had come home from a date and Jack was off at base, Sandra sat me down. I'll never forget the way she looked at me that night, like I was someone she used to know. She said she needed to talk, but the tone in her voice sent a chill down my spine. I knew whatever was coming, it wasn't good. Sandra told me she needed space, that after 25 years of marriage, she needed to find herself again. Find yourself? I asked, confused. I thought we were past all that. But then, she hit me with something I never saw coming. She told me she'd been seeing someone else, a younger guy named Greg, 34, a fitness instructor she met at some yoga class. Can you believe that? After all those years, I didn't even see it happening. I was stunned. I felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me, but it didn't end there. She had been planning to leave for months. Months. She had already lined up an apartment in Atlanta and was just waiting for Rebecca to head off to college before she moved out. But you know what the worst part was? The kids, they knew, every single one of them. Rebecca, Jack, Tyler, they all knew their mother was planning to leave me. They kept her secret, every one of them. I felt betrayed, not just by Sandra, but by my own children. They had watched me day after day, clueless as I could be, and they never said a word. I was heartbroken, sure, but more than that, I was angry. I spent the next few months trying to figure out what to do with my life. The divorce was brutal. Sandra took half of everything. The house, the savings, everything I'd worked my whole life for. But I wasn't about to let her take my dignity. I packed up what little I had left, sold our house in Savannah, and moved out to Charleston, South Carolina. I found myself a small house on the water, a modest place, nothing fancy, but it was peaceful. I started fishing. That became my escape, my therapy, if you will. Days would go by where I wouldn't even look at my phone. I just wanted to be alone, away from the betrayal, away from the pain. 7 years passed like that. I'd rebuilt my life in Charleston, found some peace, but you know how life is. It has a funny way of throwing you curveballs when you least expect them. One morning, out of the blue, I got a call from Rebecca. We hadn't been as close since the divorce, but she called me every now and then. This time, though, something was different. I could hear it in her voice. "Dad, there's something I need to tell you," she said. My stomach dropped. I hadn't heard that tone since Sandra left me. She told me Sandra had a baby, a little girl named Emma. But that wasn't all. Emma was 7 years old. That's right. Sandra had been pregnant when she left me and she never told me. For 7 years, I had a daughter I didn't even know about. I felt like I'd been hit by a freight train. Rebecca told me that Sandra needed my help. Emma was sick, needed a kidney transplant, and they wanted me to get tested to see if I was a match. Can you imagine? After everything Sandra put me through, after she left me for some younger guy, they had the nerve to ask for my help. At first I laughed. I wasn't going to help Sandra, not after the hell she put me through. But then, Rebecca said something that stopped me cold. Emma wasn't just Sandra's daughter, she was mine too, my own flesh and blood. I couldn't turn my back on that. So I agreed to meet them in Atlanta. Sandra looked different when I saw her, older, tired. Greg was there too, standing next to her, trying to play the supportive husband. But I wasn't interested in them. I was only there for Emma. I got tested, and sure enough, I was a match. But before the surgery, I laid down some terms of my own. If I was going to help, I wanted full custody of Emma. I wasn't about to let Sandra or Greg have any part in her life after what they had done. Surprisingly, they agreed. The surgery went well and I took Emma back to Charleston with me. She was 7 years old, a shy, quiet little thing at first. It took time, but eventually we built something together. I taught her to fish, to love the water, and we found our rhythm. She's 17 now and getting ready for college. I couldn't be prouder. As for the rest of the family, well, life didn't turn out the way they expected either. Jack got divorced a couple of years ago. His wife left him for someone else. Kind of ironic, huh? And Rebecca, she got stood up at the altar. Turns out her fiancé had been living a double life. Sandra? She moved on to another guy, and then another after that. But me? I've moved on in a different way. I met someone, her name's Annie. She's kind, warm, and we've built a life together here in Charleston. For the first time in years, I feel like I've found my peace. So that's my story. Life doesn't always go the way you plan it, and sometimes the people you trust the most are the ones who hurt you the deepest. But you can't let it destroy you. You've got to find a way to pick up the pieces and move forward. I did. And I'm grateful for the second chance I never saw coming.